Is America better off today than they were 2 years ago?
Now that's a classic opposition party question, right? Opposition parties, midterm elections, and opposition parties across the world, right? They are running against the party in power, and they want to generally turn those elections into referendum on the party in power. But I saw that clip, and what was striking about Kevin McCarthy asking it last week in his somewhat mangled syntax is that I don't think he or his speechwriter really thought it through. Because the answer is pretty obviously yes. Yeah. Yep. We are better off today than we were 2 years ago. Do you remember what the summer of 2020 was like?
Tonight, the fired police officer charged with murder in the death of George Floyd. The mass protests coast to coast, the scenes in New York, Atlanta, Houston, in Denver, an SUV plowing into a protester, that major show of force outside the White House. Police backed by National Guard firing rubber bullets on peaceful protesters. Moments later, President Trump walking out to a nearby church for a photo with a Bible. The plunge on Wall Street, the worst day for stocks in 3 months as fears grow of a second wave of COVID-19. The staggering new coronavirus record, the U.S. topping 50,000 cases, new cases, the highest daily death toll in months as the COVID pandemic reaches dangerous new proportions. The economic disaster, almost 1.5 million more Americans file for unemployment.
Guys, that was 3 months, okay? We gave you 3 months. We could have done a monologue an hour long on that. From May to July, the virus was raging, vaccines still many months away. The country was in mourning and in angst over the death of George Floyd. We had a president who was running around the country holding super spreader events, getting Secret Service agents sick, telling people to inject themselves with bleach. The entire world had shut down, taking a lot of the economy with it. We lost more than 10 million jobs in America. There were miles-long lines at food banks around the country. People struggled to stay afloat and feed their families. And that summer, Americans took the street in droves protesting the murder of George Floyd at the hands of police. Now, here we are. Is everything perfect now? No. But 2 years later, are things better?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks to the American Rescue Plan, passed by the Democratic Party in Congress, House and Senate,
Yeah,
on
right.
a party line vote,
Better.
signed into law by Joe
50,000
Biden,
a
we
day
have seen the
dying of
fastest economic recovery and
That is
fastest job
crazy.
growth in American
Say
history.
we were better off
We have
2
seen
years
the
ago.
most jobs under any president
What the
ever.
fuck is wrong with
We
y'all
gained
people?
all the jobs lost since the
Kevin
beginning
McCarthy?
of the pandemic, way ahead of schedule, way ahead of everyone's projections. Now, of course, at the same time, that rapid
Alias
growth
Trump?
has produced its own other problem, which is rapid inflation, which has been awful.
It's 3:06 in the morning. I'm looking at a finger hut grill.
It squeezed people's purchasing power. A huge political problem as well for the Democrats. But we finally seem to be turning the corner on that too. With the most important metric, the Consumer Price Index, remaining flat in July. That means prices did not increase for the first time in months. Meanwhile, gas prices have also now fallen for 9 straight weeks. I saw gas under $4 a gallon today.
I want to thank all the
And as
people,
brutal as
all
the
my
pandemic has
followers
continued
on
to be,
Twitter,
we are very
my
much still in
new
it.
followers.
We don't know what mutations will come. It's also the case that we are right now, as I speak to you
God
tonight,
bless y'all
we're coming out of the first ever wave of
And
this
thank
virus in which deaths
for being a
did
friend.
not spike even as cases.
Thank you for
Here,
being
look at this.
a
You can see it really
friend.
clearly on this graph. In all of the other previous waves, we would see cases go up, and we would
Back
see a
again.
big spike in deaths would follow. This time, cases and deaths finally became untethered. There was no major spike in deaths. We appear to have now reached a point where we've built up enough of a wall of immunity to prevent
That's
a
right.
huge amount of mortality.
Thanks to President
It's
Biden
not
and
normal, it's not pre-pandemic,
all of
but it's
the,
the best position we've
vaccines.
been in. And more than a year and a half after the ex-president tried to foment a coup to undo American
that he
democracy,
pushed
to
and pushed
end
and pushed and
the
distributed.
American experiment as we know it,
Look
to
at that
ignore
shit.
the will of voters. We have an
Attacking the Capitol.
the January 6th
Yeah,
insurrection.
we were better
The
up 2
Department of
years
Justice
ago.
appears to
You
also
gotta
be
be
knee-deep in
kidding.
multiple investigations. as it relates
Mar-a-Lagos.
to This, including most recently, the FBI search of Donald Trump's Florida residence. It appears
Go
the
girls.
ex-president is finally being held accountable for his actions. And on the foreign policy front, a lot of coverage this week understandably, correctly, on the 1 year.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put this on YouTube, put it on the Twitter.
That was one of the first moments of true
Oh, who's that guy
crisis
there?
in Joe Biden's presidency.
Wow,
Again, that situation was
that was a long time ago.
And the situation in
Hi,
Afghanistan
Ralph.
remains awful and brutal for many Afghans.
You want to go back to the Air Force?
Our government's
yes.
continued egregious decision to withhold
I'd love
billions
to.
in Afghan dollars that belongs to that government. But the fact remains that President
Wow,
Biden ended the war after 20 years and did what other presidents, including Donald Trump, could not and would not.